What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Collider Studio presented by Saratoga Spring Water. We have another interview from Sundance 2023. It's for a documentary that I absolutely adored. It's Only Life After All. Congratulations. Congratulations. Alexandria, I'm going to start with you, of course. I was reading a little bit about how the original plan was to film the documentary while on tour with them, and then that had to change. So what's the biggest difference between how you envision the film turning out with that original plan versus where you landed with it?
Well, I mean, definitely had a lot of, big different plans for this film before COVID, but, everything kind of worked out in the way it was supposed to in the end. And beginning a film, I never know exactly what it's going to be. I only know like big themes or things I want to listen to or pay attention to. And the interviews really that we did in 2020 really dictated so much of this story. And we didn't actually know that Amy had a massive archive of footage in her basement until like 8 months into shooting. She was like, hey, you should come in and check this out. I was like, what is happening? And so I didn't really know yet. And so that really was just a whole nother element. It was that footage plus Sony footage and other things that we came across ended up being over 1,000 hours of footage. So, I mean, my last films were vérité films. And so this was my first archive film. And so that made that was a big difference from what
first and
last archive film, but definitely like the best one I
and yet
could
you
have
still chose to edit all that footage yourself.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, totally great.
So you brought up the fact that some of your past films are more in the vérité style, and this is more of an archival film. Is there anything about making a film that way that when you go back to the vérité style might influence your work in that particular form as well?
Wow, that's an amazing question.
Awesome.
Hopefully it's not all downhill from here. I can't guarantee anything.
Man, I hope so. I mean, I learned a lot about, every film I make, I learn so much about storytelling, and my values are so determined and in the films themselves. I think more than the style of editing, like just learning so much from Amy and Emily as people and how they prioritize community and activism and service and self-acceptance. It's just, that inherently changes so much about me as a person and therefore my art. So yeah, it made a massive difference in my life. I'm a completely different person now.
So now, Amy and Emily, when you actually joke about this in the movie, the idea that like you didn't know what the story was going to be and that's Alexandria's job going in, ultimately in the end, when you view the finished film, what is the most surprising thing about the story you did wind up telling?
I think I was pretty amazed at the nuances that she pulled out of all that footage and realized that she had actually probably looked at every single minute of all the footage, because the things that she pulled out were very kind of under the radar, not the same old tropes and the same old things. And then they're strung together in a way that's, to me, it's just very artful. And I guess I don't know. I mean, I didn't think you could make a documentary about us that had that kind of flow and arc and nuance. And it's just the way we've gotten talked about most of the time has been so tropey. Not all the time. Let's just say half of it. Mm-hmm. So it's so nice to have something that's like art and nuanced and tender, but also angsty and has everything, all the dimension in it. And it's real. It's just really real and authentic, And
maybe a little bit punk.
Okay. Yes, a little bit punk. Yeah. Thank you.
How about make it punk? Is there anything that made it into the final film, whether it's like a specific experience you went through or maybe thematically that you were surprised emerged over the course of the filmmaking process?
Well, it was kind of fun to revisit some of those interviews that I'd completely forgotten about. We were just so little babies, and that was fun to see that. But I know that Alexandria was meticulous about everything that she chose, and I know that she made changes, and so everything was very, very purposefully chosen. And so there's a scene, is that what you call it? Sure. Where all these people she's at a concert, and these people who are attending the concert are talking about what our music has meant to them, and that feels weird to say, but that's what happened. And there's just this ugly old chair that's right there, like in the middle of an outside thing, and the juxtaposition of that chair, and then they come and they sit in the chair, a singular person mostly, and then talk about the music. And I found that particularly poignant because they were saying things, they were being very vulnerable about their own lives and the struggles they'd been through and how they connected to the music. And there's just something about that chair, the vulnerability, that was very striking to me. So the film hit me in ways that I wasn't expecting, and I think I'm still processing it.
Many follow-ups that I hope I remember. But Alexandria, bringing up how meticulous you were with everything you chose going into the edit, is there any particular thing that you were certain you were going to use and highlight, but over the course of the editing process, it wound up being rightfully deprioritized in order to come out with the film you wound up with?
Well, as a fan, I was like, oh man, do I just get to pick my favorite songs? Like, how is this going to work? And I had no idea how to incorporate music into the film. You know, this is lyric heavy songs, and so it's hard to have, you know, dialogue with lyrics. And so trying to figure out what songs come through, you know, 40 years of songs, like that's a lot to pick from, and all so incredible. So it ended up just being the story kind of dictated what songs came through. But yeah, I had no idea how that was going to go, and it was really interesting at the end of the day what ended up being in the film. Yeah, definitely.
Going back now to what you were saying about seeing, you know, people sit in that chair and basically just like spill their hearts about how much your work has meant to them. You are so incredibly humble in general, and we see that a lot in the movie, where I feel like you downplay the massive influence you've had on so many people out there. I know you said you're still processing, but now having seen the finished film, like, is it setting in more than ever? Can you guys fully embrace the fact that, like, you've changed countless lives with your work?
It's awkward.
Yeah, really put them on the spot with this. This is good.
You ask amazing questions.
Yeah.
The way I feel about it is that it's very, I don't feel ownership of that which happens, you know. There's a lot of mystery to it. There's a ton of community. There's all the people who came before us, the songwriters, the activists. There's our community of people who listen to our music. And so it's just impossible to have ownership of that, because it's complex, you know. And I know what it feels like to tap into music that I need at a critical moment in my life that feeds me emotionally or intellectually or whatever the case may be. So I know that music is at the center of my very being, and so I understand that. But to try to feel the impact of you know, affecting people's lives in that way just because of us, I just can't do it. It just, yeah, I just can't.
I can understand not being able to fully embrace it, but it's there. Like, it's factual. It is the truth. Like,
But
this is what happened.
It's like an exchange of energy in a way, you know, because
Yeah.
it's like when we started, we were so young, and there were a lot of ways that we didn't understand our own sexuality or gender or families or politics or our activism. And so a lot of the people that listened to us also were doing good work, and we were exchanging ideas too. So there's a lot of this thing that almost feels like a brew of like stuff that we've mixed together, and then we're all drinking from that, and it's, you know, emboldening us and giving us strength and stuff in a way, you know. So we can embrace it, but we're embracing the mystery of it, you know, and the power of musical lineage, and because, you know, we come from listening to the Roaches and Farron and, you know, the Carter family, you know what I mean? It's like, think about it, it's all so much DNA just going along in the musical notes, and we just get to be part of it.
I do feel grateful for it, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
if we meet you at the intersection of your life, you know, and there's the confluence of that, then I do feel grateful that we were the ones who were able to meet you at the intersection at that point.
Putting a little bit of a movie spin on that idea in honor of the Sundance Film Festival, do each of you have maybe a movie that you fell in love with that, I don't know, impacted your own life or stuck with you the way that your music has stuck with so many people out there?
So many.
There's like a million.
So many. I mean, I can start to name a few.
Oh, I'm here for it.
Well, this is in the film, though. I talk about personal best and what that felt like to
Yes.
be a terrified person discovering her sexuality and seeing that. But, you know, films like Cinema de Paradiso, and I used to watch a lot of the foreign films that came through the movie theaters. Call Me by Your Name was very affecting. Black Panther was completely affecting. Moonlight, very affecting. God, there's just so many. So those are just the first that come to mind. I'll regret the ones I forget later.
I like that list, though. Do you want to add to the list, Amy?
My brain is like, okay. 400 Blows, like Francois Truffaut was really important to me when I was younger, and Peter Greenaway was really important. Daughters of the Dust is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I still check back in with that a lot. It really impacted me and changed my perspective and really made me dig deeper into, just anti-racism work and history and stuff like that.
I'll throw a similar question your way now, Alexandria. So it is very special when two artists can find each other and realize that they are the right collaborators. So who would you say is your filmmaking Amy and Emily? Someone you can always turn to when you need that support when doing the difficult thing of making a movie.
Like that I'm working with right now?
Right now, or in the past, anyone you can lean on.
Oh, definitely Brock Williams. 100% Brock Williams. Brock
well.
is like my brother, my family member. Is gonna make me cry even talking about it. Like, don't look at me, Brock. He has always been there for me. He's saved 2 of my films, like been able to make these films even come to Sundance at all. I'm sure we wouldn't have gotten the film ready in time without him. But he's everything from my, massive best friend, emotional support, to a powerhouse producer, to the guy that opened my orange yesterday because I couldn't get my fingernails in it. So it's just, and just an amazing creative collaborator. He trusts me, he respects my work, and I trust him, I respect his opinion, and I don't think you could ask for anything more than that. So love you, Brock.
Makes me so happy. Bringing up the idea of the challenge of getting movies made, I remember reading about, I know you wanted to tell this story in a way that doesn't align with the traditional music biopic, and that meant you had to make it independently, which made me assume you had some of those bigger meetings where maybe you could get more financing to make a movie like this. And it's a very scary situation to be in, to know that in order to stay true to the vision that is in your mind, you need to pass on something like that. So can you walk us through that thought process a little?
Well, I think it's a very enticing thing to just do the formula of a music biopic that it's so prevalent in the industry, and there's amazing films that follow that formula, but Amy and Emily did not follow any formulas in their career. They're not typical, and they're extraordinary in so many ways, and I felt the film needed to reflect that. And also a lot of the reasons that you have a lot of other musicians talking about how important another musician was in these biopics is because you need to kind of fill in the gaps and say the things with other interviews, because maybe those people aren't saying their faults or aren't saying how something felt at the time. But Amy and Emily were so forthcoming, and I knew that they were going to be, because that's how we were in conversation all the time, that I knew they could be the narrators of their own story. And I felt that was going to be the most powerful thing. I didn't need any other famous musician to come in and tell us how important they were, or their lessons, or and at the end of the day, the interview is looking straight at the camera, because I wanted this to feel like a conversation. It's a conversation with me in the interview, but it feels like a conversation with the audience, and so the film reflects who they are. I hope it reflects their music and just does justice to their legacy as musicians and activists.
For what it's worth, from my perspective, it does. I feel like this is the worst question to ask at a film festival, but given what a special experience you had, and that it veers away from your traditional documentary filmmaking style, what is something you're walking away from with this movie that might influence the films that you make going forward now?
I mean, definitely this film has influenced me in so many ways. I mean, it's helped me with my own queer acceptance. It's helped me understand my relationship with activism in a whole new way. A lot of the films I've made have been about very difficult topics, and really I was going into this film pretty disheartened, but just really feeling reinvigorated now about grassroots activism and just a whole new lease on that. And especially when it comes to values around community, this film really changed my life. And I think going into filmmaking now, like, I want to make films with Brock. I want to make films with my close friends and collaborators, and that's the priority from here on out. And just yeah, making films in community and doing it from those core values.
You two both have a movie coming up too, Glitter and Doom. Your first experience composing for a feature film. What has that been like, and what would you say is, I guess, the biggest learning curve you went on making music in that particular format?
Well, actually, it's interesting because they used songs that already existed and they made mashups of them. So super creative. Like, we didn't do that. So it was all them. And we're working on a song for the end credits, an original song, and that's been a challenge. Because I've never written for a specific like movie. So that's interesting to do. We're not done yet, but it's almost done. But yeah, they made mashups of things and then produced them, and the characters sing them in the film. And it's like the story of two men, Glitter and Doom, they're very young actually when they meet. And it's like their love affair and struggle with their own lives and what they go through in their community and everything through the lens of like a lot of our songs and stuff. But it's really interesting mashups. So it's not just like Indigo Girls songs. It's like a whole new creation of their own. It's very, I don't know, it's kind of like a cross between Cirque du Soleil, Moulin Rouge, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
And
It's
we
got,
didn't pick the songs. They picked the songs.
Yeah.
And,
we read the script and we really loved the script,
yeah.
you know? And so we said, you know, pick the songs and we'll see.
As though I wasn't interested in that enough, that description. I don't quite know what to picture, but I also get a sense of it, and it sounds like it's going to be right up my alley. As was this documentary, I want to make sure I get this on camera. I love the way you approached making it, because I think it does their work justice, and a lot of Indigo Girls fans out there will feel very seen by your documentary, but also the narrative approach you took makes it universal, will introduce people to not only your music, but also the beliefs that you stand by. And I can't ask for anything else from a documentary like this. So from the bottom of my heart, congratulations.
Yeah, that
Oh,
means
I mean
the
it.
world.
Thank you.
I want
I mean
this
it.
to go on camera that you're amazing.
Yeah, you're really good
Holy
at this.
cow. We've done a
Yeah.
lot of interviews in our time.
You're
And finger
amazing.
snaps out in the
Yeah.
audience.
Well, now that
So
turned
thank
my
you.
brain and heart into mush, and I don't know if I can do an outro. Thank you
yeah.
for saying, seriously, thank you for saying that. Everyone out there, please do not miss this movie, and stay tuned. We'll have more interviews from Sundance 2023 for you real soon.